Since its launch in November 2015, Fresh is the Word has been a documentation of sorts for me, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, as I journey through my love of music and pop culture, as well as using this platform to share my growth on topics important to me, which includes topics involving women's rights, people of color, and the LGBT community through the artistic lens of pop culture. As an ever-evolving podcast, I'm going back to my roots, focusing more on the music artists I'm passionate about from the past and present. From the classic hip-hop artists I grew up on, to the new faces of dance. And from the metal bands I've long appreciated, to the indie alternative artists stealing my heart. Fresh is the Word aims to tell the stories of those who need their contributions to music known, while also exposing my audience to the next artist to watch out for. Sometimes before they blow up.
Fresh is the word.
Hey, welcome to the Fresh is the Word podcast. I'm your host, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, and like always, we have the freshest of guests for you. The guests for this episode are Esther and Becky of the band The Narcotix, a West African art folk band based in Brooklyn. The two, both daughters of African immigrants, met in an elementary school chorus class in Woodbridge, Virginia, where their creative, musical, and personal sisterhood would start and lead up to the release of their debut EP, Mommy Issues. Soaking up the ancestral and cultural influences throughout their lives, the Narcotix have such a fresh, spiritual sound that is both fun and soulful. During my chat with Esther and Becky, we talk about how they met and how they became such a close duo. It was a fun conversation, and they're definitely a band to watch out for in the future. So, after a brief word from our sponsor, let's get into this interview with Esther and Becky from the band The Narcotix. And now a brief word from our sponsor. Founded in 2015, 20 by 20 Apparel seeks to bring original tributes to pro wrestling's classic arenas, moments, and events. They look to spotlight the biggest, smallest, strangest, and strongest. They also provide an array of services. In the world of wrestling, where there are hundreds of shirts, promotions, flyers, social media accounts, and ads, don't get lost in the sea of parody shirts and display fonts. They can provide professional graphic design services at a reasonable price. 20 by 20 also hand screen prints all of their tees in-house. If you would like to discuss a possible run of tees, posters, koozies, foam fingers, even Zubaz, then drop them a line. Go to 20by20apparel.com. That's the number 20, the letter X, the number 20, apparel.com. Welcome back, folks, to the Fresh is the Word podcast. And we got a great guest for you. Like always, we have the freshest of guests for you. And joined with me is Esther and Becky of The Narcotix. And they have a great new EP out called Mommy Issues. Yo, thanks for joining us.
Woo! Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us.
No problem. Like, one of the things that, like, when I got a little promo of this EP a while back, one of the things that, like, just struck me is, like, this is unique. Like, this is something, like, I don't hear much. And I automatically felt like I knew a little bit about both of you. Like, I felt like you guys put a lot of, like, your quirkiness onto this record, but also a lot of yourself, your heritage and whatnot. Like, when it comes to the sound of Narcotix, you know, like, is that true? What's in it all?
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think that we definitely just we don't go into it trying to achieve any kind of sound. We just kind of like literally just like throw up all over the place, and then like we'll like
gather it up and put it into a nice thing.
Literally, yeah. And I'm trying to like make the throw up look pretty, which is like thank God for Colin, our
and it looks and it sounds and looks very pretty after that.
You don't want to know what goes on in the back end. Horses are involved.
No, yeah, it's definitely like it's lovely because Becky and I will like we compose the music, if you will, and we'll like take turns kind of sending riffs back and forth. Sometimes we'll be in the same room and we'll just kind of like I don't know, something things will come out of us. And so that's like usually variation numbers 1 through like 22. And then we'll involve our guitarists, Adam, and like the drummer. And like we just got a new bassist, but like before this, it was just kind of like the 4 of us. And then it'll take on new forms after that, like once they get involved. And it's crazy. Yeah. It's all of our personalities, like you said, in one.
Yeah,
How do you
very
sort of like
unsettling.
be able to be vulnerable enough and be kind of courageous enough to put it all out there when some of those things might not be might be unfamiliar to a listener.
I've missed the first part of the question. How do you become vulnerable?
Yeah, like how do you like just become like be open to being able to just throw all of this out there to your listeners when some of it might be stuff that they might not be used to or familiar with and might even think is weird sounding.
Oh, it's because I think that when we're writing and making music, it's kind of music that we wished was already out. We're writing music
Yeah.
that we want to listen to. So it's like, yes, we are a left field, but I'm sure there's some other person or people that it could probably touch too. So why not?
Yeah.
But you're
So
totally right. It definitely does take being vulnerable and just like, and luck. I mean, we're just lucky to all kind of have grown up together. And like, we are just unadulterated when we're creating music together. For that reason, it is very vulnerable.
things escalate fast when we're just all together, and that like things tumble out. Yeah, we're trying to reel it in all the time, pretty much, perpetually.
But at the same time, when I was listening to Mommy Issues, there's a lot of things that I'm like, yo, this is very new sounding, but it molds well with a lot of things that that people might be familiar with, whether it's from a soul standpoint or from a folk standpoint or whatnot. How do you sort of keep that balance?
Becca?
Oh, I'm not gonna lie, there is no balance here.
That's why I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's no balance.
Right.
But I mean, in short, but it really, I mean, for instance, we're writing the album, we're like in the laboratory writing the album right now. And I will say, like, songs vary to vary, but there's still that spirit of the Narcotix throughout. I don't know what it is. There's not really any human explanation or human word as it's an essence that underlies all of our music, but our music does shift from left to right, north to south a lot, like Rick to Rebecca versus John Joseph. I mean, what? On the same EP, but for some reason, like, this is a Narcotix song. But what was the question?
For real.
I think I forgot. No, how do you like keep the balance or whatnot in like being being left field, but still like having it tied to something that people might recognize?
Well, thank you for saying that because we had no idea how it would be received. To be honest, like I'm just kind of like, are people gonna like this? We live in a bubble where we're like, for the most part, we have been either performing for friends or sharing our music with friends, or just playing it amongst ourselves. And so you start to wonder, like, is this like one of those moments where your mom's like, you're pretty because you're like her kid, like like you need a complete stranger or somebody that's like not in your bubble to be like, yo, I really bleep. Can I say the F word?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please. Okay.
What?
I really fuck with this. To be like, whoa, okay, so like this is like maybe not as crazy, or they're crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to tell. Like
You just met
Who's
more crazy
crazy?
people like you.
yeah. But yeah, Becky's right. There's no balance. It just kind of happens.
How's it been sort of, starting to step out of that bubble?
Oh, a slap. I sent an email this morning to shout out to Daniel Gill.
Woohoo!
I sent an email this morning for some good news that's coming out based on the EP and stuff, and I
Nope. Worst time for you to lose audio. Worst time. The suspense.
I was like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Come back, Android.
Becky, you there?
I wonder if she's also like just still talking. Like she's
Yeah,
probably
like
still
she don't
talking.
even know that like she dropped out.
The sad thing. What was the question though? Maybe I can help.
Just stepping out of the bubble.
Oh, what's it been like? Yeah, it's been wild. It almost feels like an overnight kind of thing too. Because yeah, shout out to Daniel. He's amazing. He's been helping us with publicity and like with just putting our music in front of people.
Yeah.
Like we can only reach as far as our arms will allow us to. And so like that really, really, really made a difference for us. And it's just kind of like wild. It's very, very wild having people from just like different places. Like not necessarily, we have somebody from Italy who reached out to us and was like, I want to write about you in my Italian publication. And I was like, that's lit. Like,
Right.
that's super cool. I would love to. And like, yeah, it's been great. I thought that I would have more anxiety about it because I'm a little bit more on the introvert side.
Yeah.
And like, and a little bit like sensitive too when it comes to music and art.
I feel you.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same way. Like,
But it's really cool. It's really cool getting feedback, even like the feedback that's not positive. Sometimes like people are like, oh, like this is a little bit like intense, or like, even that stuff is really useful to us and really helpful to us as artists.
it's okay, it may be intense to you, and I'm like, we kind of did it that way, I guess.
Yeah, it's like I agree. It's
like
definitely
I'm glad you pointed that out because that was part of everything.
by design. So thank
That was
you.
by design. All right, Becky's back here.
Back to black.
I was sending an email, and in the email, I was like, I'm rocking back and forth in the corner. and I'm screaming, and yeah. Sorry, I just tried to slip back in like nothing ever happened. So
We were like, what are you talking? She tried to finish her sentence from
yeah.
I'll
Sorry,
just
my
edit it around, like, move yours here, move yours there. So, okay, Becky, what were you talking about again? You were like, just like, yo, I got this email, and then boom.
Oh no, you asked if like what is it like, sort of having put it out.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, like not being in the bubble, it actually being out in the world. And then I was telling you that I was sending the PR agent, Daniel Gill, an email, and I told him that I had closed all of my curtain windows and am rocking in back and forth in the corner right now. That's how it feels, in short. That's what it feels like. Feels like outer body, kind of really surreal, because it seems to be received pretty well. I mean, we're here, we're talking to you. Seems to be well received. So it wasn't us that was crazy. It wasn't. Everyone else.
Everyone's crazy.
We're all on. Yeah.
Or you're just thinking that everybody else is crazy, and you're like, maybe you should give, people, the benefit of the doubt, and like just put your music out there and being like, hey.
They're also on that tip.
So, you two have known each other since elementary school, going back to Virginia. Like, what is it about your friendship that like still holds true today, where you can still like make music and do this thing? Like, what is it about that?
Stop smiling.
Because like instantly when you said, what is it about you that's still the same, I was gonna be like, well, Becky's still short. What the heck?
See, jokes. Like jokes.
We've been the same distance height apart forever. I'm like, can I not? Oh, you can't see me. But I'm doing my hands right now. But anyway,
it's probably true. My mom found this like video recording of us in the 5th grade where we had to do like a play or like a musical. And like I had to be George Washington, so many layers to that. Becky had to be like a representative from Pennsylvania or something like that. And you can see the height difference. Like it is definitely the same.
It's like definitely have made. It's like that old like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito movie, Twins.
Not Danny DeVito, guys.
So I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I mean it's family. That's the thing. You can't get rid of your family. You also can't choose your family, and that's actually the situation at this point. I mean, at that point too. I mean, we fell into each other. I mean, it's like past lives, future lives, whatever. Fell into each other. Our family is our family. Like, you know, having the same condition in this country definitely made the bond immediately closer. You know, like West African, first generation, both in a choir, everything together in the same. Both have the same humor because we were literally 8. So our humor is getting molded as we speak, you know, like it's just our formative years created this bond, like where we're just kind of the same person. Kind of literally, people will send us one dress and be like, "Here,
that did happen."
I mean, people just talk about us as one thing, one entity, and it's hilarious now.
It's pretty funny. Actually, shout out to Maria before Christ. She's super cool. So she actually was one of the first people to ever interview us. And she put it so, like, I'm never going to forget this because she said that we developed a mutual language, like a strange but mutual language. And that's like the one thing that I'll say has like held since like we met as children. And like that language has mutated now to the point where we don't even really need to speak. Like I swear to God, sometimes Becky will sometimes we'll just say the exact same thing at the same time. But other times she'll literally just steal the words and I'm like, why am I even trying to talk? But it's really useful. It's really useful like when we're creating music because it's like, okay, cool. You're like finishing my sentence, but on the drums or like on the keys or like, you know, it's
efficient as anything. But you don't want to be in the room while we're creating music because it's just ugly. We're just mooing at each other.
What does that mean?
In slow motion.
Cow. We're just mooing and like growling. Yeah, just growling. It gets animal.
There's a lot of animal sounds involved for sure.
Yeah, sometimes you need that, you know, get it out.
You get it. You fully get it.
I was just barking today. I just went barking today. So I get it.
You know, being that you're both, first generation in this country, is there any sort of, an outlook that looks, that is different coming from both of you that maybe, Black folks that have lived here in the U.S. for generations? Is there anything, different coming from that where you directly have like a link where you can hear stories about, Africa where you're from and whatnot? Is there any difference in that you see?
Probably. I mean, I wouldn't know, like, just because I literally couldn't live both perspectives at once.
Yeah.
But I do know that living in an African household in America is like the most hilarious thing. Becky can speak to this too. Like being in between the two worlds is like insane, and we do have like a direct line to like my mom will tell me stories about when she was a kid, and she'll tell me like all these like kind of folkloric, kind of like witchcraft type stories, and I'm like, maybe you could probably buy a book. Nowadays, like they're way more accessible about like African mythology and stuff like that, but like I guess we do have a direct line to those kinds of stories, and like hearing about like their upbringing and also just like going to Africa and like experiencing that is it's formative for us for sure.
Definitely. I mean, literally, yeah, it's like I call it like it's already a concept that's been made up. Call it like the third culture. You're neither American nor African. You're something in the middle. It's kind of a really wise and inane position to be in, like one foot in, one foot in US, one foot in Africa. Like you'll go to school with all your American friends and do that thing, and then you go home and it's just the culture is seeping through the walls, the artwork in your house, the food that you're eating that you couldn't even pronounce, like the spices that you're trying, the languages that are being spoke, everything. And then, going to Cameroon, Ivory Coast, like as a kid, like that, first off, it's a privilege. But to be able to get in there, go to the farms, into the village, like really do the rituals, go to church there and do all these things that are branded in us, in our DNA. And therefore, and of course you go home and you're listening to Koffi Olomide or Miwe and all these people that are your dad. The dads are always blaring the music like all the time. So as a kid, you're listening to. Of course, it's going to influence exactly how we think of rhythm, how we think of the pulse and beats and tones. So it's definitely influences. Hardcore.
There's also one more thing I want to add to that is there's also just like the notion of being an immigrant in general, like as like an African coming to this country, that like when I was growing up, there were always at least 15 people in my house, like living with me.
Right.
And like even throughout, like like we're all there's always people like trying to come to the land of opportunity, and like like my parents are always helping out like a cousin or an aunt or like a nephew. So like I grew up with a ton of people around all the time, and so like kind of this village mentality, and this sort of like definitely the village mentality, and that informs a lot of like how we live our lives as well. Just like everything's about this village mentality, everything's about just being in community and being in communion, even whether it's like in the forest or like whether it's like Becky loves to go to Mexico, just like being in Mexico with like a ton of friends and house on the beach, like all of that also really informs our music. Like you'll hear it when we're like screaming at the end of Lilith, the come onto the mountain, come onto the swim. It's like I feel like there's definitely not an intentional, but definitely like a line, like a direct line to like how we envision the world in there too.
Mm-hmm.
Being that you both are a part of these immigrant families coming to the U.S., how did that inform you into like dealing with a lot of the shit that Black folks have to deal with in America? Black women also, like racism, misogyny, all that stuff. Did it inform you in any ways that that might seem different than others?
I would say that that's a really big question, because a lot of times clearly we're all black people are all black, skin tone, skin color, but it definitely is like it feels like a degree removed when we think of like Black Americans and then first generation African, like African Americans in a way. I know this sounds crazy, but like, or for I don't feel the history of like American history,
slavery,
like American slavery, which is America's history. Like, if you ask me, like that's what America is, slavery. I don't feel that connection as, say, one of my Black friends that grew up in like Louisiana. Her grandpa, like they could point to the plantation that one of their it feels kind of removed, for sure, if I'm being honest. And for that, I think it informs the way I move about the world, like move about the country, I guess you could say. Not to say, but at the end of the day, we all have black skin, brown skin. So we're certainly, I don't know, again, it goes with the bubble thing. I've never really yeah, it's never been some harsh, crass, like overt kind of racism going on in my life and in my face. We've lived in a bubble of high privilege, to go to really diverse schools all of our life, minus UVA. Go and be brought up in situations where everyone is really understanding and beautiful and open and free, free of judgment. So
Yeah, thank
I guess
you.
it informs us in a way that it kind of makes us feel a little bit removed
Yeah.
from the Black American experience. If we're being honest, like it's just kind of that's a really interesting question because it's something I think about and I'm like, huh.
Yeah, we do actually. Becky and I do talk about this. It's funny, and I agree with like most of what she said, which is that like our perspectives have been shaped by obviously our experiences and kind of like the way we see the world, which is going to be different than a Black American for sure. Maybe even like an East African or a South African or a North African. It's just like there are so many different like layers everywhere, right? But like one thing that I started to pick up on, especially in college and a little bit after college, is like because I have this perspective where I don't like really go searching for hidden subtexts, like in the way people interact with me, that there it's probably the case that there were a bunch of microaggressions that I just didn't even pick up on because like my mind is so like somewhere else. So
Yeah,
like somebody, it's obvious now if somebody's like, "Oh my God, I love your hair. Is it real? Or can I touch your hair?" Or oh my, like I went to Berlin once and like some literally this Polish guy was like, "Oh my God, I love your skin. Can I touch it? Can I touch you?" Which is the craziest shit I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
But like, there's this like kind of like ignorance slash, like this bliss in being like, in not having dealt with kind of like the weight and burden of discrimination, slavery that like I think that we have been privileged to experience, but at the same time we're just being like every single day I'm like learning, about the complexities of that for sure.
How much does your upbringing, your family upbringings, like go into the music that you guys have been doing?
I'm literally speaking in Pidgin English in Adonai, for sure, which is a language spoken in many West African countries, like in the household. It's a dialect, actually, Pidgin English. So, I mean, literally, linguistically. And then also in the fact that, well, you can definitely tell that we live in a bubble of non-judgment. Speaking on Esther's point, like we live in a bubble of like the privilege of, sort of feeling freer, not feeling that burden. And you can feel that in the music. It's very lighthearted and we kind of don't hold back any inclination, any howl, anything that maybe growing up was something that should have or would have been suppressed, figuratively speaking. We kind of let it all hang out because we feel free to do so. And so I think that's how the upbringing kind of informed the music. Should I put on my video? I'm going to try and get my video going. I feel left out now.
Yay!
Shut up.
What is some of your favorite music? Whether it's the first things that you listened to as a kid, or whatever you're still listening to now.
Yeah, for me, it's informed by like what I'm going through at the time. So like, obviously, I think that's gonna be true for most people. But for example, I'm having like an Italian, like 60s Italian ballads phase right now.
Nice.
Which I love, like, like these Italian women with like hoarse voices, like screaming in love in the 60s. Like I'm loving that right now.
Yeah.
And then I saw this documentary yesterday called Sisters with Transistors, which reminded me of how much I actually really, really loved electronic, kind of like electronic computer music. Becky's gonna hate this. In college, it's like the whole concept that like any sound is music. It can be noise. It can be like a bus going by and a bird chirping at the same time.
Yeah.
Like that's really cool. Obviously African music, Afro Latino music, anything that has like drums that and drum and bass that like play against each other.
Yeah.
Punk music. I'll let Becky go too. I had just like I have so many musical tastes. Becca?
Becky, you still there?
Becky likes a lot of prog music, like prog rock. I think that primarily informed her interest in drums. So like This Town Needs Guns is like a big influence of hers, and Toe, and she even like in high school she was really into Circa Survive. I was too actually. But then also just like villagey West African music, Cameroonian music, of course. I think she's gonna probably rejoin again. We overlap a lot in like kind of weird places actually. Like we had a Paramore phase in high school. And actually I still really fuck. I mean, like I don't know their new music, but like we'll still go back and listen to like Riot and like and just like scream those songs as well. Good stuff.
Right.
What about you? Like what kind of music? I know I can tell that you're into hip hop.
Yeah, really big into hip hop since I was like 12 years old. A lot of the stuff, I like all types of stuff from Detroit, whether it's the hip hop or rock or electronic music. The first things I was ever into when I was a kid was I was like 6 or 7, so I was into Jimi Hendrix.
Nice.
I was really into The Who. I loved Def Leppard, and Def Leppard's still my favorite band of all time.
I haven't listened to them. Maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah, that's like an 80. They're like a hard rock band from the 80s.
Okay.
They're still around, still a big, huge, still touring, huge. Still a huge band.
Cool.
But then, when I was like in 6th grade, that's when I really started like getting into hip hop.
Nice.
It was like the NWA, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, and then stuff from Detroit at that time. And then eventually got into like the East Coast rap with like, Wu-Tang Clan and Gangstar, Mobb Deep and stuff like that. Like Mobb Deep's The Infamous is like my favorite hip hop album of all time.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Stuff like that. But these days, like I'm still into hip hop, but I'm also like really into like death metal and metalcore and
cool.
And like stoner rock and like sludge metal, and then also just other things here and there that kind of like really really fancy kind of like hardcore music, punk, post-hardcore. Then there's then there's some like R&B stuff that I like, soul music stuff, a little bit of everything, but it all kind of has like a lot of music that I like kind of has a similar vibe to it, where it's like it's kind of very edgy, very street, very fuck you, like an R&B singer can say fuck you in the same, like in a different way as like a post-hardcore band can say fuck you.
This is why I like the 60s Italian ballads right now, because it's like literally they're screaming fuck you, but it also sounds like I love you.
Yeah.
Like, it's everything I want. It's just big energy.
Yeah, there's all these music where it's like the same thing. They're trying to say similar things, but they say it in such a different way, different energy and whatnot, that like you can really, just kind of get into it.
Yeah.
Different worldview. I'm trying to act like I've been here. I have been here, but I'm so sorry. I accidentally unplugged literally both my router, and, like in one swoop, both my router and the like connector thing. But I'm back in action, guys.
We saw you for like 1 second, like.
I don't know.
Bring your blue ass back.
Yeah. We saw you in video for 1 second. I was like, oh, like that's what. That's what she looks like. I don't. You looked good in that 1 second.
Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm practicing on looking good these days. Wait, I'm trying to get it back, but in the meanwhile, music. Yeah, I'm actually literally just before this turned off the really dramatic '60s Italian mountaintop music, as well as I've been into returning to my progressive rock roots with this new band that I've discovered. No narcissism intended, but on the Narcotix radio, obviously, we're just looking for bands that I could potentially play with and stuff.
Yeah.
They're called Floaty. I love their sound. I'm being reductive right now, but it's progressive rock, math rock kind of vibe. Um, really dope. So I'm loving. There's a feeling that math rock gives me that no other music can give me. It's just kind of like, so it's a conversation with the drums and guitar that for me that gets me like really excited, music nerd style excited. So that's my vibe these days.
Yeah, there's much more coordinated effort with that.
It's coordinated effort. It's like the opposite of what we're doing with the Narcotics. So yeah, it's refreshing. I'm like, oh, literally math. How about wait? I heard the tail end of what you were kind of getting into these days.
Um, but no, I was saying to Esther earlier that I was like, I grew like my favorite, the first things that I liked was like the Who and Jimi Hendrix.
Oh,
My favorite
yes.
band of all time is Def Leppard. Ever since I was like 7 years
Oh,
old. But then like I started getting into hip hop when I was like 12, and
mm.
a lot of stuff like that. Hey, there you are.
Hey guys, what up?
Stuff like Wu Tang
Oh
Clan and
God,
Mob Deep and stuff like that. Oh, you disappeared on us again.
I don't know what's going on, but
But
I'll ignore me. Yeah.
but it's stuff like that, like Detroit music of all kinds. I'm into. You know, and yeah, but like yeah,
Yes.
but these days like I like a lot of different stuff, but it's kind of like I don't like necessarily a genre. I like specific like bands, like specific artists and how they do
Yeah.
things.
Exactly.
There's things that
Likewise.
I look for. There's things that I look for in each band's, but I don't like a specific genre. Like one thing I do specifically look for is I look for women who do music in all sorts of genres, because
Uh huh.
I like that like perspective on things. There might just I like a woman's perspective on all types of music. Whether it's metalcore or hip hop or
Feminine
punk.
energy.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
like an energy and stuff like that that I'm really drawn to, and so that's like one of the things that I look for.
Ah, that's so sweet. Like
That's
that's
lit,
really
yeah.
awesome.
For sure. I
Uh,
think women and like women identifying or whatever, like the like underrepresented voice in music, it's like awesome that you're like
Speaking.
emphasizing that and raising that
Hmm.
up.
Yeah, and with me, like I identify as non-binary,
Yeah.
gender not conforming. A
Cool.
lot of times it's because I don't like really connect with a lot of like. Okay, I'm just tired of men's shit. That's the easiest way of saying it.
Like just dude music.
Like, yeah, I don't like a lot of that. I
Of
really there's some that I like, but like a lot of
course.
like I just don't connect with. But then like I connect with like the feminine side of me like a lot more at times,
Hmm.
especially in music, and that's definitely like a reason I was drawn to both of you, because I was like, okay, this is very
Mm.
interesting. Just looking at your backstory and just in your bios and stuff, I was just like, this is very interesting. But then when I listened to it, I was like, yo, I really dig this. This is dope because it has a lot of
Cool.
things that I do like, and then there's some like new things, some very interesting things they put into it. So
Ooh,
that's why I was very drawn to you guys.
Wow. Super cool.
that's so nice. Yeah, that's like cool to hear. Like how you got to us. How did this happen?
Yeah.
What? No, that's sweet.
Yeah, a lot of like how I find stuff is That's kind of a that's what I'm like such a music nerd that like the journey to find something, or I don't even like saying that I found something. I feel like the music found me, more or less.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
it's very ego driven to say you found something, you know, like you found a piece
Hmm.
of
True,
music,
actually.
you
Very
Like
discovered this
that in
band.
general.
Like
yeah.
I was listening to them before they're famous or whatever. All that stuff is very ego driven. Like I like to say
Mm,
that it like that music found me, you know, and that's what and that's what makes like and that's why I like to like interview people like you, the people that I you know that this music comes into my life because it makes me appreciate the music a lot more if like I interview them and it's like a cool exchange like we're having now, then I can really
Uh-huh.
kind of dig deeper into the music. A lot of times people say let the music do the talking, but there's so much other stuff that goes into the music, you know, good and bad, that can affect how you enjoy it, how you process it.
Yeah,
couldn't agree with you more.
yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Like if I love the Mommy Issues EP, but if you guys were out like being mad toxic about something, I'd be like, ah, fuck that shit.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. So you're not or let me frame it as a question. Are you then able to separate the artist from the person, especially like with like bands that you really, really respect or whose music you respect?
It's really hard for me to do that. Like
Yeah.
it really, really hard. It's
Yeah.
a lot of times when there's definitely been times when I've like totally like cut off listening to people because I was like,
Cancel.
I'm like, yo, I I can't, I
It's not,
can't,
yeah.
I can't do it anymore.
It's like you know too much
Yeah, I
at
know
that
too
point.
much, and I'm like, nah, I
Yeah.
can't support this dude anymore. It's
Yeah.
whether it's something that like got, that's something that's like widely known and got like put on Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff, or just things that I've like heard and from trusted sources or experienced
Mm,
firsthand. It's hard for me to separate those things.
Yeah,
I could see
yeah.
that. I could see that.
As we kind of as we kind of wind down this interview, what do you feel like what do you hope people get out of the music that you guys are making? What do hope people get out of this Mommy Issues EP?
Yeah. She said
I
love.
hope they get love, the capacity to love. I hope they feel love. I hope that they're able to access a part of themselves that allows them to be super vulnerable, as vulnerable as ever, like newborn baby, open vibes, nude in the nude, to be able to listen to the music and receive that power, the power of vulnerability, and the power of love. I know the power of love. What is this? But seriously though, that's what I hope, and that's what we all hope.
Absolutely. I feel the same
Are you
way.
crying?
I feel a
Like,
little bit. A little bit.
like, damn, why is everyone so quiet?
Yeah, I mean, as long as they feel something, like for sure. Like I think sometimes I'll listen to music.
Something, right? Just feel.
Yeah, it's hard to distinguish. It's like, what is that I am feeling? I feel a tingle. Like I feel something. Like I want to go for a jog.
True.
Or like, whatever it is. I think that is because then that just means that like the message got to you. Like it got to you. It got through you, and that's
Yeah,
yeah.
Like,
spreading that. What did you feel when you listened to the album, Kelly?
I felt like it made me happy. That's what it did. It made me happy.
Oh,
Like,
even Riff to Esther? I mean, sorry, even Esther? I'm scared every time I hear that song. It's like, no.
it just made me happy. I was like, it gave me just a refreshing energy when I listened to it.
Wow.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, that is awesome. I'm
That's
glad.
so good.
Before we get out
That's
of here,
this is all.
wait, what was that?
This is all I guess to circle back to that question you asked before, like what gives you energy or power or something to be able to like bring this music out of the bubble, and there it is.
Oh yeah.
There it is. Refreshing. Happiness, a feeling. That's it.
Before we get out of here, is there any, final words you want to just share?
Hi, Mom.
That's so valid, though. Hi, Becky's mom. Happy birthday to Becky's mom. Like, what the fuck?
Oh my God, it's my mom's birthday. Oh my God, I have to call her. Holy shit. I'm a shit child.
Yeah.
Hence mommy issues.
Like, I kind of understand.
Awesome.
It's like weird, and I can understand why Esther would know that it's your mom's birthday more than you
That's
would.
crazy. I forgot. Sorry if she's listening to this.
But after talking with you, I understand it too.
It's opposite day.
Yeah, you get it, right? You get it. You get it. I have the bifocals in the fucking duo.
Oh my God. I have to call my mom.
We take turns wearing the bifocals, but I tend to wear the bifocals more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get out of here then, where can people go online to get more information about the Narcotix, the Mommy Issues EP, where to follow y'all?
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for asking that. So we are most prolific on Instagram, of course, like all the kids. But we have, I would say go to our website. It's narcs, narx.com. We have Facebook, Twitter, Spotify is where like our music is. We also have Apple Music, Bandcamp, SoundCloud. So like we're just trying to spread our seeds everywhere. But
thank you for listening to the Fresh is the Word podcast, hosted and produced by myself, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, empowered by Anchor at anchor.fm/Fresh is the Word. Fresh is the Word theme music provided by Steve O. You can find more of his productions at iamsteveo.bandcamp.com, and that's EYEAMSTEVEO.bandcamp.com. Fresh is the Word is available on all major streaming platforms. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. If you want to support Fresh is the Word, please consider pledging via Patreon at patreon.com/Fresh is the Word. Follow Fresh is the Word on social media on Twitter at Fresh is the Pod, on Instagram at Fresh is the Word Podcast, and join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Fresh is the Word. For more information about Fresh is the Word and our other podcasts, Breaking Records and Renaissance Soul, and a collection of pop culture articles and reviews, please visit freshasthepodcast.com. Thank you for listening and your support. Goodbye and good night.
Fresh is the word.